scammer.
At last, my post-credit scene squatting has paid off. Welcome to the Martinverse.
Oh my god. Wait, the what now?
Here, I can see your past, present, and future. For example, did you know you'll be nominated for the Scottish Podcast Awards?
Yeah, I know. I was there.
But wait, there's more. You'll be invited to guest at Epic Con and at Highland Realms Comic Con.
You do know we're going to those ones together.
Right, yeah, okay. But I said past, present, and future. I guess you already know about the 300th episode incident?
Martin, I need your help getting out of here. It's bad enough that I got West Side Story'd here by Andrew and 300th what now?
No, it's okay. I've got it. If we isolate enough bad movie energy from the Marvel franchise, we should be able to create a plot of here.
But we already reviewed the worst of the MCU.
I never said we were reviewing the MCU. It's gonna get much, much worse from here.
You fiend! Wait a minute. You're talking about Howard the Duck, aren't you? You fiend!
Welcome to the Martinverse of Madness. See what
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marvel Month. My name's Satsunami, and joining me in his self-proclaimed Martinverse of Madness is Martin McAllister. Martin, welcome back.
Thank you. I saw 1 billion futures that you invited me on this podcast, and I accepted every single one. Happy to be here.
You don't have to humour me, you're already on.
I want to get invited back.
Well, true. But how are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. I'm really, really excited to talk about some of the best and worst films ever made. I am very hyped for this.
Yeah, because in the first week of Marvel Month, Andrew and I talked about the rise of the MCU from 2008 onwards with Iron Man, Captain America, etc. I'm crying a tear away as I think about all these great films. And then, of course, the week after, we talked about the worst of the MCU and how it had a somewhat downfall, without being too clickbaity about it, drawn red circles around the episode going, did you know?
He said, what about the MCU? Question marks. My face circled.
Hashtag Martin Love and Thunder. But yeah, we talked about that. Then we talked about living in the Marvel world. And now we are here together and we are going to be talking about the precursors. And I say that so with gusto. I'm trying to be positive here. But yeah, we are going to be talking about a time where the MCU did not exist. And honestly, Martin, it was such a different time. I cannot stress this enough. How different a time was it from before the MCU was a thing?
It's funny to try even remember it as an adult now, but how unpervasive it was in terms of the amount of superheroes that people actually knew, the superheroes people didn't know, like which ones it was, toys, movies, TV shows, things that were actually Marvel that people cared about. It was such a tiny amount. And you look at these films, we'll discuss them today, but a lot of them, when they were trying to make money, more on that later, and they actually were trying to make money with these films, it was like the big A-list actors, they're trying to get in to try to launch people's careers, to try to launch these film franchises long before they had the idea for the MCU. Because not only, I think, we take for granted the sort of Marvel in terms of superheroes being different, but also this whole concept of a cinematic universe had never really been done. That was hinted at in DVD box arts, and that was about it. That's all you ever got. So yeah, totally different, totally just not, when we were growing up, superheroes just weren't interesting at all. Do you remember it the same, or what's your take on it?
So I'm quite nostalgic for this time period because, and I've spoke about it in length in the Spider-Man month episode where Andrew and I talked about the Sam Raimi trilogy. Even to this day, although it's probably not dated as well as some of the other films, it's still got that cheesy nostalgia to me. It's got that heart, its core and everything, but it's something that is so, and I don't want to say anti-MCU, but it's so different compared to the MCU. The MCU has its own isolated films of, they have to defeat the bad guy, but then there's this kind of underlying current of, but there's a big bad, either space monster or cosmic entity that's going to get them in the end, and it has to build up, and the stakes have to be leveled higher and higher. But these films come from a time where they were all in their isolated bubbles, and to be honest, you can thank legal action, copyright and things like that, because am I right in saying that Marvel around the kind of 80s and 90s, they were in quite a precarious situation because they had to sell off, if I'm right in saying, so they sold off the Fantastic Four and X-Men to Fox, and they sold off Spider-Man to Sony. Is that right?
I think so. And then there's other, even before that, I'm going to touch on, I'll do it now. There was a Fantastic Four movie that didn't get released that was sold to a different company before Fox. So yeah, you're totally right. At this point, they didn't really know what they were doing, and they were offloading all sorts of franchises to other companies, and things like Daredevil and Punisher as well that would end up becoming a big linchpin, I would call them, in like the early MCU stuff in terms of TV. You know, that had to get brought back into the fold. So yeah, they're in a pretty precarious place when you join them during the Spider-Man trilogy, and it really was Spider-Man that's carrying them. And I think to this day, certainly people from our generation, Spider-Man's on like that Mount Rushmore of superheroes. He is like the biggest Marvel one by a mile.
Because the other two that are definitely, and again, we'll get into it later, but the ones that are really prolific are Blade and the X-Men films.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but Blade, I wouldn't have been allowed to have watched that by my parents. So that was a non-starter for younger fans of Marvel. So yeah, X-Men was the next best thing, but even then, although it had its brutal moments, this might sound controversial, but I wasn't as big a fan of the X-Men films. I thought the second one was really good, but I wasn't a big fan of the first one. And I think the reason is, and it's something, maybe it's because Dragon Ball and anime ruined this for me, right? But you know how you've got a hero and you want the heroes to succeed and everything? I hated the fact that I was watching the X-Men and they had the leather outfits on and everything. And, oh, look, they're so cool and everything. And they were getting bodied in every single encounter. And I thought, these guys are just chumps at this. And it wasn't until the second one where there was a bit of balance, a bit of nuance and everything. But it's like when you see Cyclops especially, I did not believe when comic fans and things were saying, oh, Cyclops, he's the leader of the X-Men. He is so cool. And I'm like, this chump, the guy who would end up going on road trips with, CGI animals in the future, that guy? Yeah, he was a really badly envisioned character. And it's like, you don't really remember that. You remember more the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and things like that. You don't really remember Cyclops getting chumped every film. And then he gets killed off screen in the third one. And you're like, oh, yay, thanks.
I think as well, for me, certainly, I was watching, whether it came out at the time or I was just watching on Catch, like some kind of DVD or whatever, I can't really remember. But I was watching the cartoon of the X-Men at the time as well.
Uh-huh.
And it had a bunch of X-Men that weren't in the film. So I didn't like the film because Nightcrawler wasn't in it. I distinctly remember this because he was in the second one. But I didn't like the first one because I was waiting for Nightcrawler to turn up because he was my favourite of the X-Men at the time. And he wasn't there. And I was like, he's not there? How can this be an X-Men film?
It was such a weird film, to be honest. I don't know what's weirder, that or the fact that Hugh Jackman managed to not only stay for those films, but he managed to weasel his way into the MCU as well.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman has by miles done the best out of... Maybe let's structure this conversation a bit more. We'll come back to this, but out of all the actors that's done all the sort of pre-MCU movies, he's probably the only one that's had any real staying power. Tobey Maguire might be the only other person I can say, but he's only done Marvel films. Or like Hugh Jackman did thingy.
Patrick Stewart as well.
That's true, he was in a lot of them.
Yeah, and Ian McKellen to an extent, but I don't know, Patrick Stewart always pops up and he's like, oh look, I'm the wise Professor X, and then he gets killed off screen. It's like, oh my god, are you just here to get killed off screen? Like, I think he's been killed genuinely, off the top of my head, like 3 times in these films, because he was killed in Last Stand, and that was the only one pre-MCU, and then in the MCU he was killed in Multiverse of Madness and Days of Future Past as well. So it's like, what's up? He's like, Mr. Stewart, are you okay?
He's just trying to get himself out of the film.
It's like, he's
desperate.
Oh, and Logan as well. Spoilers, but he was killed in that as well.
I love how you didn't spoiler tag any of the other ones but Logan.
I had to. I'm sorry, I had to. But it's funny because those films that we just mentioned, whether it's Spider-Man, whether it's X-Men, those were the latter half of the pre-MCU. And this is when the industry as a whole, and I'm generalising here, but this is when it felt as if they started getting the handle on what a superhero film should be, and that it doesn't have to be silly. Because even during the late 70s, I think it was in 1979 with the first Superman film, and I think that was like a game changer, that they could show, oh, superhero films are financially viable, they're enjoyable, they could be serious but also quite silly. Because before that, you had Batman in the 60s and things like that, which, as we know, is the height of cinema. But at the same time, when it came to the other films, they were honestly all over the place, and we will get into it in a minute, but there was no consistency. And do you know what it reminds me of? And I'm wondering if you agree with this. It reminds me of the evolution of, see, video game films.
Yes.
To a degree, I think video game films got it worse, granted, but what are your thoughts on that?
To be fair, if it wasn't for the MCU, who knows what the direction would have been like, it's taken this one franchise, to credit course. Oh, I guess you could probably credit Batman as well in a big way, like the
Dark Knight
trilogy. But yeah, no, to kind of put on your point, I actually want to steal a bit of Marvel terminology into this, but I think you can broadly split the pre-MCU stuff into 3 phases as well, right? So you got phase 1, and it basically starts from Lou Ferrigno's The Hulk into our favourite films in the MCU, I believe, which is Howard the Duck and Captain America, which we'll discuss. And then it's like the Spider-Man X-Men start kicking off, but there's the blandening era where you've got, I'm not going to list them all because there's too many to list, but you've got your Daredevils, your Ghost Rider, your Blade 2 and 3, as you know, Blade 2 is pretty good, Blade 3, Elektra, the Fantastic Four movies, where like it's just a whole bunch of the same very noughties, 90s feel, you know what I mean? I can't explain it, but they all feel the same, you know what I mean? And then phase 3, I would kind of call like the end of Spider-Man, maybe they're trying to reboot it, and then the X-Men ones with Michael Fassbender and part with James McAvoy, those ones are kind of like the last phase, Deadpool as well, I guess, and then as the MCU is kind of kicking off in the background. So I feel like that's the 3 phases of the stuff. I feel like they never learned how to nail that tone down. I think Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man's the only ones in this whole era that manages to nail the tone of what they're actually trying to achieve, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll discuss it as we go along each film, I think, but it's either too serious and they miss the entire point of why did they bother making a comic book movie, or it's too funny to the point it's absurd, like our favourite films. And I feel like it really isn't until the later X-Men ones, like your Logan, the Wolverine one when he goes to Japan, where they start kind of getting that balance and understanding what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, that was a long answer for what was probably a quick question, but they never did nail the tone, I don't think, until the MCU kind of nailed it, and because there wasn't a blueprint, and I think the Dark Knight's one side of the blueprint, and then the MCU kind of films the other side of the blueprint. For what it's worth, I just want to bring this up now, for what it's worth, in this Marvel phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 thing I'm chatting about, I also think the DC films follow the exact same pattern, and you could slip them into here as well. I think this is like a comic book problem in general. So in that same sort of blanding era where they're just pumping out rubbish, you've also got the Green Lantern movies and Catwoman. That Superman, which I forget what it's actually called. Maybe it's just called Superman?
No, is it not Superman Returns or something? Even though
Superman's back again.
Yeah, Superman's on your walls. What's he returning from? Never left.
Superman's omnipotent, always with you.
Do you know, genuinely, the only thing I remember from that film is him getting shot in the eye.
That was amazing to be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's in that era as well. So just for what it's worth, when anyone says it's not a Marvel problem, it's a comic problem, I know it was all kind of crap.
And on that note, let's dive into it. So, of course, we'll be right back after a therapy session, of course, after watching these films. But yeah, no seriousness, we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome to Satsunami, a Scottish variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests. Join me, your host, Satsunami, as well as the rest of our Chatsunami team for our takes on these very important pop culture topics.
Sir, it's clearly a trap. I accept your fate!
That happens 3 times in the film. Like every time that general goes, don't do this one thing, he goes, do you know what I'm gonna do? That's exact.
It does as well. She had the pointy teeth. What was that about?
She looked like Bilbo when he wants the ring back.
She did, didn't she? I just want the lightsaber one more time.
Parasite says, no, you will get back into your office and work.
No, says the man in Zoom. Yeah. Trousers are for the working man.
You're bursting into your hotel room. Honey, we need to go.
Leave the kids. You can milk an audition.
Oh! That's the worst thing you've ever said in any of the episodes.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.
Stay classy and have a banana. This has been Satsunami.
I'm sorry.
Hey Chatsunami listeners, my name is Nicola. I host the Tis Yourself podcast over here in Ireland. It is a chat show where I chat to some of your favourite celebrities from shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Friends, Scrubs, EastEnders, Hollyoaks, some musicians, some sports stars, some reality stars all in there, chatting about life, journeys, addiction, banter, crack, the whole lot. I would love you to come and check it out. That is, of course, after you finish listening to this Satsunami episode. The gang are doing great over there and I can only awe at their success. So if you feel like coming and supporting another indie podcast, I would love you to come along and check out the Tis Yourself podcast. Have a great one.
So I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you, Martin. What a way to start this episode, right? But remember how, and this somehow worms its way into every episode when I have to remind the Pandalorians that once upon a time you used to host a bad movie night, and a lot of these films that we are going to be talking about, we did see at your house, or rather your old house, yeah.
We had to sell the flat after.
You know that way where it's like, oh, do you need to know anything about this house? No. And it's like the telltale Turkish Star Wars buried under the floorboards. Your secret shame.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't unwallpaper the walls, just DVDs all up. They'd be inside underneath the wallpaper.
You think that's plasterboard? No.
No, it's the box of DVDs.
Actually, do you still have those DVDs in all seriousness? I never thought to ask you.
I actually do have some of them.
I
do have. So when I moved, I got rid of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What I do have is Captain America.
Oh, of course.
I couldn't get rid of it. It's the greatest film in the MCU.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, let's get there. Let's start.
Yeah. So before we watched that film, and we did watch it, it's burned into my mind for all the best and worst reasons. But before that, the thing that really shocked me when I was looking at the pre-MCU, and don't get me wrong, they had TV shows and things before these films. So they had a Captain America show in, I think, 1944, which I have to admit I know nothing about, but I think that's the same time superhero shows were about, you know, Superman and things like that. You also had Wonder Woman in the, I want to say 60s or 70s, but again, that's DC, not MCU. So there was definitely a lot of shows at the time, because in terms of the MCU, you also had Spider-Man, and this is one that I've been dying to get you to watch for ages. It's called Spider-Man the Dragon's Challenge, where for some reason, I think it's based off the, I want to say it's the 70s TV show, but they took 2 episodes where Spider-Man for some reason travels to China, and it's just so baffling. It's like he's trying to protect, I think it's J. Jonah's old, I don't know, roommate, colleague, whatever, from getting assassinated, and it's one of the most bizarre things ever. And it has one of those really weird shots at the end where they're chatting away, but the people in front of them don't know clearly they're filming, so they're just walking in front of the camera, and it's them really quietly being like, gee, that was a swell adventure. And you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. But I mean, you had that, and you had Japanese Spider-Man, of course, which, I mean, we both love it, don't we?
Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic.
These weren't movies, though. Well, like,
yeah.
The China one was 2, as you said earlier, it's multiple TV shows turned into a film.
Yeah, it was like 2 episodes put into one. That's what I was saying. It's like the anti-Digimon film.
Yes.
They just put them together and they're like, yeah, that'll do. So the first official film for the MCU, and I was blindsided by this, was Howard the Duck. And it was, am I right in saying it was produced and maybe directed? I know it was produced definitely, but I don't know if it was directed by the one and only George Lucas.
So it wasn't directed by
okay.
a guy called Willard Huyck.
What a man.
Good for him. But yeah, it was a Lucasfilms production. Before Iron Man, before Spider-Man, before X-Men, Howard the Duck. Someone decided we really, really, really want to make Howard the Duck.
And in 1986, so you know people who yearn for the 80s and they're like, I was born in the wrong generation. Did you want to be born the same time as Howard the Duck? That's all I'm asking. Stranger Things has romanticised and washed away Howard the Duck. Don't know where I was going with that point. The point is, this is a terrible film, and you and I watched it together. I genuinely don't remember much of this. I just remember it was quite seedy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's so weird about this whole film. Is it's stupid.
It's not a superhero film.
No, it's definitely not a superhero film. I think it's trying to be like a raunchy comedy.
Yeah.
But they still have like a big fight scene at the end with an alien, not like current MCU beam blasting fight with an alien, very much practical props in a factory awkwardly bonking into each other. Just the very fact this film exists is so baffling to me. But yeah, it's incredibly weird. And I can't remember most of it, which is a sad sign. The opening couple of scenes are pretty funny and pretty weird, but then you become quite acclimatized to it very quickly. You know what I mean? Like, then it's just a duck in a film.
Yeah, because it's like the beginning he's in his own world, and there's a really creepy scene where he gets sucked into a portal or something like that, and he goes through all these different apartments, and then there's one duck that's in a bath or something, and you're like,
Didn't have to see that.
Did not have to model that, George. You didn't. You really didn't. Why? And then, yeah, as you said, he goes into the real world, and it's like, okay. The whole gimmick is, it's a duck in the real world, except it's not a duck, because have you seen the size of it? And he's got a love interest. Look, I know I bring Sonic into it quite a lot, but Marvel fans who make fun of Sonic 06 and, look, it's a hedgehog kissing a human. No.
Let's look what's in your closet.
Let's see your skeletons. Howard the Duck and getting his feathers ruffled. No. Do you know what the weirdest thing about this film is, though? I'm just looking at it in IMDb. This was a 12. Like, this is rated a 12. How the hell did Howard the Duck get a 12?
I thought you were going to say the weirdest part of this film is it's now part of the MCU.
Oh, yeah. Well, that too.
We don't know if this film is, but there is a Howard the Duck in the MCU.
And the words of the church have canonised them.
They've embraced.
Yeah, they've embraced the character. And I get it. It's goofy. It's Howard the Duck. I was about to call him Donald the Duck. It's Howard the Duck. But at the same time, why is that the hill you want to die on? Like, I don't think he's ever come back. Or if he has, he's probably been in the background. But
I think he was in the background of the Avengers Assemble scene.
Oh, quite possibly.
You know, like the biggest, most important scene of the entire franchise. I think he's in that.
When your custom characters in the same. Yeah. So we go from 1986 to Howard the Duck. It was rightfully panned, 28 on Metascore. Jesus Christ. And then we get to The Punisher, which came out in 1989. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen this film, but
I have. This is the Dolph Lundgren one.
Yeah. Is this the one where it's like he's fighting Japanese gangsters or something like that?
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen it. For what it's worth, it has been so long since I've seen it. And I also watched this and the other Punisher movie back to back because I thought it'd be funny.
Was it funny? Was it worth it?
No, it truly wasn't. Yeah. This is one of these films where and there's a couple of these around this time, like the Nick Fury one as well, what's coming up, where it's just like they've cast a big actor and they've gone, what have we got lying around?
Yeah.
They wanted to make a movie with Dolph Lundgren where he was a hero, main character, and it just so happened they had a Punisher. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but it certainly feels like it's a movie. It's an action movie first and it happens to be about the Punisher. You know what I mean? Judge Dredd kind of feeling as well.
Am I right in saying that Dolph Lundgren, and I could totally be off on this, but was he not He-Man at one point?
Probably, man.
So, yeah, 1987. So he was He-Man a couple of years before, 2 years before The Punisher.
What a career.
4 years before that, he was Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Wow. Honestly, what a champ. Anyway.
He was too good for getting back in the MCU.
Exactly. But yeah, from what I know of The Punisher, there's only one funny scene that I saw when I was researching this, and it's not the 1989 one, but whatever the John Travolta one was, where he ties him to a car and he blows up all the cars and the cars on fire make the Punisher symbol.
Hell yeah.
It's one of the goofiest things I think I've ever seen. I'm like, hell yeah, this is sick. So
that's what they should all be though. Like, that's what you want from the Punisher. You want just absolute nonsense.
You don't want any nuance or anything nowadays. You just want, just pure unadulterated memes. And speaking of memes, actually, then we flash forward 1 year to 1990.
Oh, yes.
Chris Evans, who dat? Matt Salinger. Oh, he is my Captain America.
Not my captain, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, this film is so baffling because if I remember correctly, it starts off so seriously and actually genuinely quite moody, doesn't it? Where it's like during the Second World War and these Nazis come in and they shoot up a family and one person escapes. It's really brutal. If only the rest of the film got the memo.
I would just like to read the review scores.
Oh, please do. Please do.
IMDb, 3.3 out of 10. Letterboxd, 2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 16%. Amazon UK, 4.2 out of 5. That's me being spamming 5 stars on it every week.
Amazing.
Metacritic, 404, page not found.
Yeah, this is the only one with a Metacritic score. Oh my God. I don't know what's worse. This was the kind of Wild West era, of trying to translate the costumes into like a major, I wouldn't say blockbuster at this point, but, into the big screen. And it sucks bad.
I think that's one thing I do want to mention as well, because I feel like for all this film is a pile of crap, right? as much as it pains me to admit it, I kind of thought I was going to do the bit the entire time. It is a terrible film. But there's a lot of heart in it in terms of, like, they did faithfully recreate this costume.
Oh, yeah.
It looks terrible, but they stuck to it. There's bits in the film where Captain America throws a shield to take out a guard tower, and they used miniatures and actually did it. They show you the tower getting broken with a shield, and they've used miniatures to do it. There's a lot of people in this film working really, really hard, which I think makes it only funnier. Like, you know... You know, like, why did you get such a hard-working team to make this film?
Yeah. What I will say is, I remember Red Skull looking really good.
Yeah.
The prosthetics and everything looked really good for that. And I think, see the costume itself for Captain America, I think it's fine. But it's this weird balaclava. He looks as if he's about to rob an old woman.
He does in the film, to be fair. He's a carjacker.
He robs two people that way.
His ears are hanging out of his costume.
I've said this twice, and Andrew hasn't seen the film, right? So whenever I say it, he gives a very apathetic, right, it's a reference to a bad film. I'm like, no, this is a warning. Do not trust this man with a car, because he does it twice. He does it, first of all, I think when he dethaws, and...
He does it to his love interest.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Can you explain what is the bit? Like, what is it he does?
Basically, whenever he gets picked up by an ally, let's face it, the first guy's like a reporter or something who's a fan of him, and then the second one, as you said, is his love interest / the daughter of the woman he used to be in love with. Yeah, very 80s. Don't ask, it was a different time.
The MCU did it.
Yeah, but that's exactly what happens. It's every time they're driving along, and this is with his friends, by the way. This isn't with anyone who has captured him. It's not with Hydra. It's not with anyone like that. He sits in the car, he bends over and he says, can you pull over a second? I think I'm going to be sick. So they pull over out the goodness of the heart. He goes out and he does the whole bit. He hunches over, clutches his stomach. The person comes towards them, puts the hand on his shoulder, and then he Looney Tunes runs into the car, steals, and I don't know why they leave the keys in the ignition, but he runs in, he starts the car, and he drives off without them. So the first time he does this, he leaves the reporter in the middle of nowhere, America, and the second one is his love interest, leaves her in the middle of Italy, where she can't speak the language, she doesn't know anybody, and he's like, it's much safer for you here. Clearly it isn't.
A couple of things I'd like to highlight on the scheme, right?
The scheme.
On this bit. So one of the things that we all know and love about Captain America is he's a super soldier and he can run really fast. Both times he does the scheme to steal the car. He does the throwing up bit after he pulls over. Not actually that far away from the car. He has to sprint back to the car. The reporter pretty much catches him. Like, and so does the love interest. He's not made it back to the car in time. He needs another 100 metres. He needs to walk further away from the car.
Well, he's called Captain America, not Captain Cardio.
It's the fact that, like, it's such a terrible, terrible scheme.
The fact that he got outran by like a 4'8" young woman, compared to...
And that's what I mean. It's like, what's so funny about it in this film is the fact he does it the first time. You mentioned he does it twice. But the second time he says it, he goes, can you pull over? I think I'm going to be sick. And the first time you ever watch this film, you are adamant it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
There's no way a film would do a bit twice. Because it's not funny. You know what I mean? Like, it's only funny to do a bit once and then to flip the script on it. But this film does it twice and it's so incredibly funny. I don't know if maybe, see if they'd hit it a third time, I think it would have been the greatest film ever made.
Can you imagine if he did it to Red Skull? I think I'm going to be sick.
It probably would have worked, honestly. But the fact that this film just completely played it straight, did it twice, it worked both times. Like I said, both times, the other person who makes it back to the car pretty quickly could have beaten there, honestly. Phenomenal.
But I mean, I don't know what's worse, the fact he repeated it twice, or the fact that there's a scene where he lies down. He does like a combat roll, not even a combat roll, it's like what you did in primary school.
Yeah, it's rolling down a hill when you're 6 is what he does.
Yeah, but then he holds the shield in front of him, yeah. And then, am I getting this mixed up with Jim Carter, by the way, where it's like at the end, genuinely at the end, they have like a speech saying, at the end, the US had a peace treaty with this country or something, and
I think that might have been Jim Carter.
No, there was a text ending for that where it's like, and they dismantled all nuclear weapons. It's like, what? But no, I'm sure there was like a speech or something.
Honestly, I mean, there's the thanks, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Thumb.
And the Colgate smile, yeah.
Yes, I'm gutted that this is is a audio-only presentation because I'm currently doing the thumb.
Well, me too. Thanks, Mr. President.
Sorry, I just looked up the film there. You are so right. It ends with a news voiceover saying that Kimball's environmental pact is agreed upon by every country in the world. My bad.
No, I don't get that ending. I'm not even going to commit to the bit. I don't get it.
I'm going to watch this film after this.
Oh, same. Absolutely same. That's honestly, I know we've spent a lot of time on that, but I cannot emphasise how fundamentally different that was. You know, we had Howard the Duck, and then we went from that to 3 years later, a standalone Captain America film. It's honestly baffling. And that's the thing as well, though, because there was definitely films in between 1990 with Captain America and 1998 with Blade. You know, you had your Incredible Hulk film, you had, and no, I'm not talking about Ang Lee's Hulk, but you had the Hulk, Spider-Man, those kind of things. It wouldn't be until 1998, as I said, we get Blade with Wesley Snipes. And while I think in hindsight, as an adult who's watched it, I think it's a good enough film despite the effects being janky, but it caters to a very particular audience, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's a lot older. I think if that film had came out now, and of course, if anyone's in depth in the MCU, they'd know that they've been trying to make a Blade film for 10 years or something now, and it keeps falling apart. But I think if that film came out now, it would have been received just as well, just in terms of like the violence and the vampire stuff. It was quite in vogue in the 90s, obviously, and I think it's still pretty big now. I think the reason it did so well, reception-wise, is it was quite culturally on the zeitgeist, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just so happens it was a Blade movie, but like Wesley Snipes was big, vampires were still kind of in that whole like Matrix, I don't want to say Demolition Man because that's past by that point, but you know what I mean, that kind of like futuristic leather and stuff. Look, it's like super on the zeitgeist at the time. It's a great film in terms of its time. It's a perfect time capsule.
It's funny you mention that about the outfits and the uniforms and everything, because with X-Men, what I find, and this is the scene that always sticks out to me, I don't know if you remember this, where they suit up for the first time to find Rogue, and Wolverine points out, oh, why the leather, you know, jackets and everything like bikers, and Cyclops turns around and he's like, oh, what did you expect? Yellow spandex, ha ha ha. Which is so weird because we would go back to that in the MCU to a degree, not overly, but you're completely right. It was definitely a time capsule of what this period was of superhero films. You know, they wanted to be cool and edgy and everything, because that carried over as well with Blade 2. I mean, Blade 2 was a fantastic film as well. I don't quite know why the meta scores are so low for it, but I think maybe it's because the genre, like it's a vampire film. It's probably not everyone's cup of tea.
Action movies as well, like typically, I would say action movies typically always trend down the way as well.
And I mean, X-Men, that did alright. It was popular at the time, I remember, but as I said in the intro, I didn't like it. I thought it was alright, but it wasn't my favourite film. For a film where it's like, oh, we're the X-Men, let's focus on Wolverine. It's like, yeah, great. And oh yeah, we've got two others. Yeah, it had great elements on it. That's the thing. It's the same with Spider-Man that came out the same year as Blade 2 in 2002, that it's great how they laid the foundation for what was to come later. Because Spider-Man, that has its very awkward and janky moments, and as I said, I've spoke about it in length in the Raimi trilogy episode, but it showed that there was potential for that franchise, and especially for superhero films. And we get to that, and then, am I right in saying here that this is a period that feels very much like a Russian roulette of quality?
Yeah, this is what I would call, I called it the blanding in the intro, which I think is maybe a wee bit unfair, but everything feels very samey around this time, and there is a couple of good films, but they still feel like the same vibes, if that makes sense. But just one thing I always wanted to note real quick before you kind of moved on, just in terms of the X-Men, Blade and Spider-Man, all three of them interestingly have the same problem where they keep wanting to make, you talk about stakes earlier, they keep wanting to make the stakes bigger, and each time the third film's kind of a mess of like 100 ideas, to which obviously X-Men had to get shut down and rebooted later. Spider-Man doesn't recover for a long time, and they never made another Blade film again, so I just think it's quite funny that none of them nailed the trilogy. All three of them ran full of trying to make themselves more than they were. Well, I think Spider-Man 2 is like the perfect of these pre-MCU superhero films. And yeah, we've spoken about Spider-Man 2 before and stuff, so I won't go into it, but I do think that's a perfect encapsulation of what they all should have been, while Spider-Man 3 is a perfect encapsulation of what so many of them tried to be and messed up. But sorry, to go back to your point, there's a real mad bit of quality exchange here, but a lot of them just fall into this. In true Russian roulette terms, there's 5 blanks in one shot.
With the Spider-Man ones especially, and even making X-Men 2, I think they started to realise what they could do with these films and show that there was going to be emotional stakes, that they could afford to be a bit of a character study, even though it was a superhero film, quote unquote, for some of them. But even though it leaned more into those tropes and everything, it was really cool to see them do something different compared to what came before. But in 2003, a year before Spider-Man 2 and a year after Blade 2 and everything, like 2003 was a contentious year because we've got X-Men 2, which pretty good, not bad. But then we've got Two in the Chamber with Daredevil and Hulk. Daredevil, I'm going to admit, I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but from what
It's
I've heard,
fine.
yeah, the only thing I know about it is Ben Affleck fights Jennifer Garner in a playground and the children cheer them on. So basically what you're seeing is a bunch of kids cheering on a woman beating up a blind man.
It's the MCU.
Yeah, there's no context where you think, if you didn't know he was a superhero, this would be pretty messed up. But speaking of messed up, you know, you've got Daredevil, which, as you said, is there. And it was so much there that they managed to get a spin-off later on, which we'll touch on. But yeah, then you've got Ang Lee's Hulk, which is pretty much something that really, I think, terrified when the MCU came about, that it terrified them to do the Hulk because that film was so bad. And what I will say in defense of the Hulk for this is at least it tried something different. I mean, it failed completely, but at least, much like a Sonic game, at least it tried. God damn it. And what I always remember, and I don't know if you remember this, see when you went into a place like Curry's PC World, that kind of thing, remember TVs would have all of these films that were out at the time, and it was obviously to show the visual fidelity of what the TVs could do. It could show off the colour, you know, the detail. And for some reason at the time, it was always the Hulk. And it's the scene where he's beating up the tanks and everything. I don't know why that in particular.
That's so weird. That's like unlocked a part of my brain, you saying that. That's so funny.
Yeah, because when I was thinking about it, I thought, I mean, it was everywhere. And I remember when the MCU one came out, I was like, did they not just bring out a Hulk film? I was like, no, that was the other one, the bad one. It's got that one funny moment when the guy blows himself up by accident and it becomes like a cutout. And he's like, oh, and it's so funny. Love it. Then you get to 2004, you've got the Punisher film, as you said. We've got Spider-Man 2, which is the absolute peak of
I would
this
say the
era.
pinnacle of these kind of this era.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the goodish X-Men ones later on, but that kind of coincides with the MCU.
Yeah, I would kind of call that phase 3 I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I'd say that's kind of that, you know.
But I mean, in terms of these films properly pre-MCU, this is definitely, you know, it's got heart, it's got personal stakes and everything. It's not too... I mean, he threatens to blow up New York, but it's like, other than that, what has he done recently? But yeah, it's a great film, fantastic, which is such a shame because then after that, we've got Blade Trinity. And I remember one of my good friends, we watched the trilogy together and I think we kind of spaced it out. So we watched the first two, fantastic. Well,
You're like, I can't wait to watch the third movie.
yeah, and people said, oh, it's bad. And I thought, oh, how bad can it be? And I don't know what it is about Ryan Reynolds just being an absolute stinker, you know, because he had that, he had Green Lantern. And I don't know whether these characters were in the comics or anything, or they were meant to be part of a spin-off or anything. And this is also the time, and it's very controversial, that Wesley Snipes was allegedly quite difficult to work with on this. I remember there was a rumour, and I don't know how true this is, they said that he refused to open his eyes.
I love this.
Have you heard this? Yeah, they had to CGI his eyes open or something. I don't know how true that is, if that's real or not. I just find that so funny that he just did not give that much of a you-know-what, that he was like, no, I'm not putting my all into this.
Also, sorry, just another
No, go for it.
Another mark of quality on this film, of course, is that Triple H, the wrestlers in it. And as we all know, films with wrestlers in it are always fantastic.
Oh yeah, 100%. How's Suburban Commando doing, by the way?
Phenomenal. Never been better.
10 out of 10. 3 ninjas, who dat? I know it's the same wrestler, but still. Yeah, this one was a bit of a bust. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I just remembered it was like, oh, it's Ryan Reynolds annoying Wesley Snipes for 2 hours. And I was like, oh, great. Well, 1 hour 53, according to this. And then we get to 2005. 2005 is a weird one because we get a spin-off, which I've got a serious question for you. Do you think they were testing the waters, see, for a cinematic universe here? Because Elektra technically is a sequel sequel to Daredevil. I mean, it's the same actress, same character.
Yeah, I don't know how much, however, they were serious about it, though. You know what I mean? In terms of wanting to do it. And I feel like it was a spin-off for spin-off's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think it was ever meant to be anything more than that. Because there was I Am Legend has the joke in it about the Batman-Superman movie. And it was such a obscure bit of trivia and sort of a weird thing at the time that I just don't think they'd thought about it in any great detail. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they did it and went, that's funny. And like that would have been it. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a few cameos kind of like that dotted around these films. And it reminds me much more of, you know how like Finding Nemo has a sequel, it's Finding Dory. I feel like it's much more similar to that kind of concept than them trying to make an MCU. You know what I mean? It's like a sequel from a different character's point of view. But that's what I think. I don't know if you've got any other opinions on it, but I just feel like they didn't quite had that idea to build up that way.
Well, just wait till I get my PowerPoint out. Number one, Elektra. She stabs bags of sand.
She so does.
That's literally all I remember. I can't remember what she does that to in terms of like the soundtrack. Genuinely don't know if it's like Breaking Benjamin or Eversense or something like that.
It was probably so Breaking Benjamin, isn't it?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know, but it's something so 2000s. You know, I'm going to be so annoyed
Linkin
with
Park,
it.
I'm going to go look it up.
Yeah, please look it up. Because I remember that scene where she's just doing it in the dark and it's like, oh, it's supposed to be so cool and everything. Don't get me wrong, yeah, sure, why not? But
there's Evanescence is on it and Breathe No More, Switchfoot Sooner or Later. Evanescence just made so much money off these films, by the way. Good for them.
But yeah, and then after that, we've got the Fantastic Four, which is something we actually haven't touched on there. So you were saying that, was it the 80s or 90s that they technically made a Fantastic Four film?
Yeah, so this is quite interesting. So this was 1994. They made a Fantastic Four movie. By they, I actually can't remember who that is off the top of my head. But basically, this company had the rights to Fantastic Four and didn't want them to go back to Marvel. So they made a film and then just binned it. So it never got released. And it wasn't until years later. I think, to be fair, I think it circulated on DVDs and pub sales and the rest of it for a long time. But the film did get a release unofficially through that. And then once sort of streaming and YouTube and stuff popped up, it was all over that. But yeah, they were planning to release it in 1994 and then went, nah, and pulled it all. So all the actors, everyone got paid, I think. But yeah, it was just a bit of a tax write-off and it means they could keep the rights. And yeah, so we didn't see a Fantastic Four movie until 2005.
Is that not crazy though? I mean, see if that happened nowadays, you know people would be drumming up support to get it released.
Yeah, well, look at
Acme
John Cena. Acme versus Wile E. Coyote. Like, and yeah, that film, it's a very similar story to that. It got made and then they went, it's not worth releasing. Not a Batgirl as well, a few years ago. Yeah, and these films just get sat on. It's bizarre, isn't it? Who does the paperwork?
I mean, I'm not a rich billionaire, sadly. Crying myself to sleep there. I would say my pile of money, but what money? Patreon.com/Satsunami.
MakeMeAbillionaire.com.
Please, guys, please. Do me a solid. I will fund the next Fantastic Four film. Legal reasons, it's a joke, etc. But yeah, it's so wild that you would put so much effort into making a film. You know, you've got to hire the actors, you've got to get people who do costuming, you've got to get the cameras, you've got to get a director and everything. And just for them to go, it's not worth it, and just write it off. I know why it's money, but that thought process just seems utterly baffling to me. It's like if you and I did hundreds of episodes and then I'm like, yep, tax write-off.
It's what's so baffling to me. We're seeing this in lots of kind of companies just now. Obviously, video games are having a big problem with this just now with various studios getting closed down.
Yeah.
But the rights to things are often worth more than actually making anything about the rights. You know, and so the rights to the Fallout game franchise is probably worth more money than actually making a Fallout game now. And things like that. There's this really weird flux. So it's like, I think for them just to make this film, to keep the rights, they must have thought the rights to Fantastic Four were so much money that making a film would cost them less. But then why not just release it? You know, it's crazy. To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Because, I mean, if I remember correctly, I know Iron Man, I think they were owned by New Line Cinema at this time, but they never got the chance to make their film, which probably for the better, because otherwise we wouldn't have the MCU as we know it today. But again, I don't think it's a massive butterfly effect of what could have been, but you still do wonder what would have happened if the Fantastic Four film came out, because if it was that bad, would they have made this one in 2005?
Oh, fun.
Yeah, to be honest, much like your analysis on Daredevil, it's alright. It's been a while since I've watched it, but it's alright. It's not the one I would choose personally to put on in the background, but it's there.
It's got the same stink of all the other films from this era. It looks the same and feels the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then, of course, we get to 2006, where, as you were saying before with X-Men, we've got The Last Stand. Even in 2007, this is kind of the era of trilogies, to be honest, because we had Blade Trinity in 2004. That was a flop. We had X-Men The Last Stand, which I wouldn't say was a flop, but I think it was just too ambitious.
Yeah, it was messy.
Yeah, because they wanted all the different mutants. They had the Juggernaut. They had Archangel, Angel, whatever his name is, the one who flies with angel wings, that one. They had all of these different mutants, and they had the big battle at the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes, and they move it.
I have to admit, that is a cool
That's
image.
phenomenal.
Yeah, although it is weird how he moves it during the day and then it's nighttime by the time they arrive. I haven't been able to unsee that ever since. I'm like, oh my god, how long did it take you to take this bridge over? You've got that, and then you had the studio interference with Spider-Man 3, which we all know, and that is such a shame for that film because it could have been such a poignant send-off for it, but the fact they said, oh yeah, we want Venom in it, and you're like, I don't think you do. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it ever could have been a send-off. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, marketing and... Sorry, the film could have been, but there was no way the industry was going to let it go. The marketing people and the executives were never going to let that film franchise end.
If it was good, then maybe they would have made the fourth one, but yeah, unfortunately, I think it was supposed to come out in 2010, fun fact, and I think because it didn't come out, that's why they released Thor. Yeah, there's a fun fact for you. As far as I remember, they had and I've mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, but they had the suit for the Vulture and everything ready to go for it. Have you heard about this?
No.
They had the Vulture wings and everything, and the image got leaked by... Have you ever heard of Ken Penders?
Yes.
Yeah, it got leaked by him, of all people. And I was saying this to Andrew as well. I'm like, of all the people who was just like, hey guys, look what I found, and it's this picture of the wings. I was like, this is the weirdest crossover of my life. I don't know if I like it.
Specifically funny.
It is. I remember scrolling and being like, oh, that's cool, who leaked this? And everyone was going wild, going, oh my god, it's Ken Penders. I'm like, how? Why is my Sonic life seeping into my other interests? But speaking of other interests seeping into one another, the last couple, and I think this is where your phase 3 comes in, because even before that, we had one more film in 2007. Ghost Rider, yeah.
Yep.
It's Nick Cage. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's literally a Nick Cage film masquerading as a superhero film. I think Nick Cage is good at what he does and his Nick Cage-isms. I mean, even in his new, I don't know if you've seen it, the Spider Noir series, I have to admit, he was good in that. I don't think the series would have worked as well if he wasn't in it.
No, he is the main event of that.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone else does a good job, but it's like, if it was just played completely straight, you would have been like, I don't know. But I think it's the same with Ghost Rider. Can you think of, and not to put you on the spot, but can you think of any other actor who would have been able to do it? I mean, other than John Travolta, of course. Face-off reference.
Problem is, like, Ghost Rider is, like, I don't really understand what he is. You know, and I think that's kind of I don't know comics well enough. And I think as well, the fact he's never turned back up in the MCU, despite being pretty recognisable. This is when someone's going to tell me he's in the MCU. Is he in the MCU? If he is, he's not in one of them. He's not been in it yet. Was he in a TV show?
Yeah, I think he is, but not in the MCU ones. I'm sure. I could be totally wrong in this, but I am convinced that he's in one of those, you know, the Marvel Defenders ones.
Oh, okay.
Like the ones in the Netflix series. I'm sure he pops up in one of them.
Yeah, either way. So back to the point was, the fact that he's never turned up in that goes to show you that it must be way trickier to figure out, and they should just have brought back Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Do you disagree with me?
No, I agree with you. Like, see if they did a legacy thing where it was an older Ghost Rider, because it's something that Andrew brought up last week when we were talking about, ironically enough, Nick Cage and Spider Noir. He said, I don't get why they got Nick Cage because he's a lot older and everything, and I think in the kind of context that him is like an older version of the character, it makes sense and everything. But for Ghost Rider, I feel as if you need someone, and again, I love Nick Cage, but I feel as if you need someone either with the same energy or you need to age Ghost Rider up, because he's like an Evel Knievel kind of guy. So if he breaks his bone, at least you're not worrying about him. But in that, I don't know. Again, it could be like, what's his name? You know, Sam Elliott, who's in the first Ghost Rider. He's the guy who rides the horse.
Yeah.
And it's like the horse catches fire, he catches fire, and he's like a Ghost Rider. Maybe if they did something similar with a new Ghost Rider and him, yeah, but but again, you're completely right, because he's so OP in terms of a character. It's like, oh yeah, I'm fighting the literal devil. You're like, well, where do you go from there? Because even in the second one was terrible. I actually saw that in the cinema, would you believe? And I remember the exact... I don't know, all I'll say is, and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about, but there was a guy in school, right? Yeah, you know exactly who it is now, but there was a guy in school, and we used to go to the cinemas quite a lot, because back in our day, it was a lot cheaper. Well, cheaper-ish, but I remember we would go to all these silly films, you know, some were better than others, some good, some bad, but we would always check it out. But I remember seeing Ghost Rider 2 in 3D. It was not worth the price of admission. I think if you include inflation into the ticket price, I could have probably bought a second home by now.
That's amazing. Avocado and toast.
Exactly, yeah. I could have bought half an avocado and maybe a slice of toast, but yeah, it was grim. The one scene that always sticks out in my head where I thought, this is the laziest film ever, is that there's a scene where they joke saying, oh, Ghost Rider is so cool that he pisses fire, and then it cuts to him standing in a black background, and he's got his back to the camera, but he's peeing fire. And I thought, right, okay, that's a trailer shot. That is something that they did for the trailer. They're not going to include it in the film. You know where I'm going with this. They included it in the damn film.
Yep. Hell yeah.
Black background and everything. They didn't edit anything. They just said, oh, the Ghost Rider, he pees fire, and then they have to give a visual. I don't like this film. I'm going to be honest. And Ghost Rider 2 came out in 2011. So again, this probably goes into your phase 3. Is that right?
Yeah, this is when I feel like they start to nail down, or maybe not nail down, but they start to kind of said it with such confidence earlier. And now I'm looking at a list of films that includes X-Men Apocalypse. So
Infant Force stick.
Yeah. So you know what? Maybe they don't quite nail it, but they certainly felt like they kind of had the vision at this point. So yeah, you get the Fantastic Four reboot, but X-Men, it certainly does stuff. Some of it's good. I've lost my confidence so quickly looking at this list of films.
You want to slap that in the box.
In my head, I was like, my God, what a run X-Men has, you know, First Class, The Wolverine, Days of Future Past, Logan.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, wait, hang on. There's X-Men Apocalypse in the middle of that. There's the Fantastic Four reboot.
There's the Phoenix one, yeah.
There's the X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is one of the terrible CGI, which is very funny.
Oh, yeah.
I'd kind of forgotten those films existed. So maybe my phases aren't quite correct. It is a different time though. But this is now the MCU's up and running.
What I will say though is, it was true to its roots, wasn't it? I mean, they're like, we're going to be the most generic, terrible adaptations ever. I mean, X-Men is in a very weird state right now. I think the all-seeing, what do you call it, gelatinous cube of Disney is going to absorb the X-Men eventually. Because, I mean, they've got Fox, don't they?
Yeah, I think this is pretty much, it's happening in the next Avengers film or after that. They've hinted at it a couple of times. A couple of X-Men have appeared under like different guises, haven't they, in the MCU?
Yeah.
It's going. Obviously Deadpool and Wolverine are now in the MCU as well, so like it's happening.
Because I mean, you have Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, they are technically, which I didn't realise they were X-Men. I was like, oh, I thought they were their own thing. I was like, nope, X-Men. All right. And I've said this before, maybe it's just old man Logan in me right now, but I never understand. See, with the X-Men in their own world, you know, or their own kind of isolated films, you can understand why the public are more afraid of mutants and their powers and things. But when you combine them with superheroes and things, and they're like, and again, I made this reference last week where it's like that HR meme, you know, the, hey, I'm here to save you. Oh, thank you so much. And then it's like Wolverine, hey, I'm here to save you, Bob. Hello, human resources. You know, it's like, I never got why they hate one but not the other. And I know story-wise, narrative-wise, the allegory behind it, you know, there's obviously a thing there. But yeah, it always just seemed kind of weird when you see superheroes out in the open, you know?
Yeah, I think this is, for me, as a superhero enjoyer at a distance, this is always something I struggled with the comics in general, and this is kind of something, I think I've mentioned this, you guys will have covered this when you spoke about the fall of the MCU, but like, I can't keep all this information in my head. The best comic books for me are the Batman graphic novels, where you open the first page and the story starts, and you get to the end page and you go, brilliant, and you close it. Any Batman graphic novel, typically you pick them up and that's what happens. Some characters will be in certain positions depending on where it got released in the timeline, right? But typically, Batman and his villains are all self-contained. On the other hand, I've got the MCU Civil War graphic novel that they released, and you need to have about 20 supplemental comics to understand everything, you know what I mean? And I've always, like, this is something I've always struggled with superhero movies, is the more complicated these things get, and I think X-Men kind of became like a bit of a problem for itself, where it had sort of merged the two timelines together, and you had all that stuff. Days of Future Past was just on the edge, I think, in terms of managing it, and I don't think we need to talk about Mobius, Sony Spider-Verse stuff.
What, you mean you don't want to talk about Madam Web and Craven the Hunter?
Brother, I've not seen them.
Do you know what's funny? It came on Netflix for free, and I was like, you know what? See, for a laugh, I should really watch it. And then I think it's off Netflix now, and it's like, oh, the last day to watch it. Do you want to watch it? And I'm like, I don't think I do.
The problem is, right, this does kind of tie into this phase 3 thing I was talking about. Yeah. These films are now competent, and they're not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Right? There's a problem with a lot of these films that are bad, where they're not funny anymore. And I think a lot of the later Spider-Man ones, sorry, I feel like I've totally gone off track here, but and then like the X-Men ones as well that aren't good. The X-Men Origins Wolverine one's pretty funny, actually. But apart from that, I would say a lot of them aren't funny enough to be bad good. You know what I mean? Like, they're just bad. And I'm not sitting through a long film to watch nothing.
I make this joke all the time, but do you genuinely think that it is that idea of, oh, it was a different time? Because, as we said before, these films before the MCU, they were time capsules and really reflections of what superheroes were basically perceived as. You know, they were quite goofy, they were very colourful and everything, and then when the 2000s rolled around, they had to be a little bit more gritty and dark, with some exceptions. You know, you had maybe Daredevil's kind of on the fence, but you had like Spider-Man, for example, that was bright and colourful, while you had the contrast of existential dread and leather suits with the X-Men and whatnot. But I feel as if, although we talked about this before, that you've got the good parts of the MCU and then you've got the terrible parts of the MCU, but there is still that consistent core of them. Whether they get good, whether they get bad, they have basically nailed down the formula. You think this is an MCU film, whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's still an MCU film. But when you have that high standard, whether it's with the visual effects, the story, whatever, it's really hard to compare, especially when you're in the same universe, because I think the DCU probably gets not a pass, but you know, I wouldn't say that you could really compare it because it's in its own characterization, its own world and everything. It's a bit like comparing Marvel to The Boys or something like that, or maybe Invincible might be a more apt one, but it's like comparing two completely, you know, like apples and oranges of universes. And you know my feelings on this, by the way. My brain cannot comprehend, see, when it's like, oh, it's The Simpsons, but Marvel's in it, and it's like, no, I can't imagine Thor and Spider-Man and things whipping around and whatnot with the grounded Simpsons. And I know they've done specials, you know, that's a whole other rant. But yeah, do you think it is just, as I said, sorry, that was a long-winded way to say, do you think it is just a product of its time and they can't get away with it now?
Yeah, I think something you mentioned, I think this is a very big point in terms of, I think you see this across all things just now. Companies are so risk averse. They're not making massive blockbusters and video games and whatever without knowing the formula to begin with. And I think we end up with this very samey kind of output. Even, I'm just thinking of like the MCU off the top of my head. Guardians of the Galaxy feels like the last time they went, oh, we're taking a massive risk here. You know what I mean? Like, that feels like the last risky film they ever did. And they went, we've nailed it. We've now got a formula that works every single time. And I feel like, despite the fact that these Sony films, like sort of the Spider-Man adjacent films and the X-Men films don't always work, they try to hit that same formula every single time. And I think it's to the detriment a lot of time, because for all we clowned on it, you're never going to see a Howard the Duck again unless it's made by an indie film developer. You know what I mean? You're not going to see Lucasfilm make a comedy film about a duck, like a Squirrel Girl movie. I was trying to give another example. You're not going to see a Shovel Knight, I'm trying to get something pretty random, a Shovel Knight film made by a massive studio. These things have gone away. People are very risk averse now. And not to say you don't get wacky, wonderful films like the Barbie movie, being sort of going off the top of my head from the last few years, it was like they made a very stupid film and it paid off. That film shouldn't have worked as far as as far as I'm concerned. It's one of my favourite films ever. It shouldn't have worked. But yeah, I think as much as we've kind of slagged a lot of the films off, they are such a perfect time capsule of an era that is just gone now. I was joking about the phase 1, the pre-Sony stuff. It's weird and it's wonderful and you'll never see it again. And even the era where they're trying these films, that they've got Blade, but they can't make a Blade film now. That isn't me being like a boomer thing. They literally cannot make a Blade film. They keep trying. You know, Spider-Man has to be connected to everything else now. You can't have Spider-Man be on his own. Fantastic Four's now been swamped into the MCU. Are they going to make a Ghost Rider film? You know, like, probably not. Everything has to be something. Everyone's become quite risk averse. And yeah, so like, to kind kind of sum it all up, these earlier pre-MCU films are such a perfect time capsule of the era, and I feel like that's kind of gone. That wacky, weird, will it be good film is kind of gone. I can't think of the last time a superhero film came out that I didn't know if it was going to be good or bad in advance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because one film that came to mind just as you were talking, especially about Spider-Man, was the Into the Spider-Verse films.
Yes.
Which was such a risky move, but it was so good that they greenlit a sequel. They did the sequel, and as of this episode, they've still got the third one to make.
They're trying.
Yeah, I think they've started on it, but again, it's always back and forth. They say they've started it, they haven't, etc. But that was a fantastic interpretation of the story. It focused more on Miles Morales, who is more of wasn't just the typical Peter Parker route or anything else. It was so well done. But for every film that you get like that, which was definitely lightning in a bottle, because I don't believe for a fact that anybody in the studio looked at that and said, this is going to be great, it's going to be a hit, everyone's going to love it. Like, I think they had confidence, but I don't believe for a second they thought, oh, this is going to be, one that people are going to be clamouring for, and everyone just loved it and they wanted more. But for every Spider-Verse film, you've got something like, as we joked about, Madam Web and things, but even in the MCU itself, you've got things like the Eternals, the Immortals. Honestly, insert any phase 4 or 5 show or even film, because not all of them are bad, but you do get a lot more stinkers than you do good ones. And the fact that you see ones like that, as I said, the Eternals, where they were trying to build up certain characters, and I think even with Thor Love and Thunder, they were trying to build up, I think, Hercules as well, who, as far as I know anyway, hasn't turned up. And all of these characters, they were like, yeah, we're going to bring them back and blah, 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 and then they never did. And because this is just such like a big blob of a conglomerate, as it were, a blobglomerate even, the fact is that, as you said, they're never going to take a risk because they've got a formula. The formula works. And even if it's bad, the fact of the matter is that they're still going to do it if it makes them money. I mean, look at the Mandalorian and Grogu film. I've not seen it personally, but from what I was reading about it, again, it is exactly what we were saying about the early days of this phase. It seemed okay. It wasn't something people were rushing to see or anything, but it made them money. And the fact is, it's like, if the MCU fail with something like that, yeah, they can shrug it off, can't they? They think, okay, that was a bad film, let's never do that again and just focus on our popular characters. So they've got that safety net. Whereas I think the goodwill for Sony especially, and we all know why, but for Sony, where they've made bad film after bad film, same with Fox as well, it's a precarious situation to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you raised a really good point with Into the Spider-Verse, because that is so different as well. It helps, it's fantastic, right? I think it won a bunch of awards the year it came out, things like best animation and stuff. But yeah, you can see they probably weren't expecting it to be so good, and the fact that it has taken them so long to get a studio together to start making these films, and there's no, spin-offs in that universe, etc. Obviously, Spider-Man noir kind of a spin-off, but, there's no other animated spin-offs. So you can see they kind of almost weren't ready for it to be popular. And yeah, outside of the main Spider-Man movies, all these sort of other Spider-Man movies are flopped, and you've probably spoke about this to death. I feel like there's just a general superhero fatigue. Now, we're recording this shortly after Supergirl came out, and it's done pretty poorly in the cinema, budget-wise, box office-wise. I don't think it's going to be a bad film by any means, but it looks like every other superhero film to me, and so I probably won't bother. And that's not a dig at that film or any of the people involved in it. It's just like, I'm just tired of that kind of film. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think of the last superhero film that I saw in cinemas, and it might have been No Way Home.
Probably the same for me, actually.
Yeah, because I can't actually remember if I went to any others.
Was that before or after The Batman? Filmed in Glasgow?
No, I did see that. Oh, that was awful. That's my controversial take. I did not like that film at all.
Wow. To extend the podcast by half an hour. Yeah. Another time,
yeah. We'll do it for Batman month. I actually have been thinking about doing a Batman month. We should really do it.
Adam West, get ready.
I think I need to rewatch it, but I just remember watching it at the time thinking, wow, I did not like this film. I don't know what, there was something about it where I was just like, yeah, it's okay.
I do want to quickly mention, sorry.
Yeah, go.
I'll bring this up again when we talk about the Batman, but my biggest pet peeve reading reviews for that movie was it was obviously filmed in Glasgow, where me and you are both quite close to.
Yeah.
And I would consider it to be my hometown. And I love Glasgow. I think it's a phenomenal place to live. And whenever the reviews came out for the Batman, it would always be like, Gotham's never looked so disgusting. Gotham's never looked so horrible. At the end, and they drive through a disgusting graveyard. Like, yeah, that's Glasgow, lads. Please leave it alone. It upsets me the amount of times that Glasgow's been used for Gotham, and it gets mentioned in reviews of how disgusting it looks.
What really baffles me about that whole film is it's like, oh, it was filmed in Glasgow, and genuinely, you really can't tell up until the end when it literally just
out.
Yeah, it's like, it's literally Glasgow.
So good.
They barely dressed it up as anything else. It's literally just the graveyard. It's the necropolis in Glasgow.
Yeah.
But then he goes down the hill and he stops at the lights, and I'm like,
The tennis factory's on the left, brother.
That's it. It's like, that's Glasgow. That is 100. You didn't even put like a this way to Gotham downtown. It's like, that is Glasgow.
The most offensive one of all is The Dark Knight Rises. Is Glasgow's used, so Chicago's used for Gotham in that franchise, except from after Bane destroys the city, then it's Glasgow.
Honestly, we need to do an episode on American films that are set in Glasgow. Filmed in Glasgow. Really?
Yes.
Was it? Wow.
Idris Elba's driving about on a motorbike, and it's like he goes through the same street 4 times. If you know the city, it's so disorientating.
There was one I remember. Did you ever watch the Eurovision film?
Yes. Yeah, they go down to the SEC, don't they?
Yeah, it's like they're in Edinburgh and they take a turn and they've edited it so it's like the SEC in the distance, or the Hydro or something like that in the distance. I'm like, lads, that's the wrong city.
To Edinburgh's life.
Yeah. I mean, you've got that, you've got World War Z, that's the famous one. Indiana Jones, the 5th one. Try and think of the other one.
Batgirl.
Really?
The one that didn't get brought out. They filmed that in Glasgow, because then that was one of the ones that got canned.
Oh, yeah. Never feel offended. Well, then, of course, leading to my point, of course, there is, of course, the new Spider-Man films filmed there. But I remember looking at the trailer for that, and don't get me wrong, it looks all right, but again, I think it leads to what you were saying about superhero fatigue. I don't think it looks bad by any means. I don't think it's going to be a bad film. I think it's probably going to be good, because I like Spider-Man, I have to say. He is probably my favourite Marvel superhero out the bunch, but yeah, Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just miss the days, and this is going to, I feel old saying this, but I just miss the days of being confident if I pick up a film, I'll understand it. I have this problem with Star Wars and Marvel and DC and quite a few things now, but I often get, I don't know if paranoid's the right word, but a bit kind of in my own head when I'm watching a film, right, and a character turns up and the main character now says, oh, hi, Satsu, and I go, oh no, have I forgotten who this character is? Are they in a different film? You know what I mean? To the point where, like, that was part of the reason I gave up on Pandalorian. I'm watching it and then everyone's addressing each other, and it turns out this character was in like one episode 2 seasons ago of the Boba Fett show. You know what I mean? It's like, how am I supposed to be keeping track of this? And that's my one thing, and I probably will not bother seeing Spider-Man for the same reason, that I'm not confident if I start watching this film that a character from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that was in the background for 5 seconds turns up and everyone knows who he is except me, and it's pivotal to the plot somehow. Oh, Madam Web turns up and I need to know who that is. Or Mobius. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just so much stuff now that I'm like, give me Howard the Duck.
That's actually the perfect summary of, and again, I use this very loosely to say everything wrong with the MCU, but I don't mean that in a disparaging way to be like, it's terrible, how dare they have a interconnected universe and everything, because it's bloody impressive.
Yeah, they truly did something one of a kind.
Yeah.
Like, no other franchise has managed to pull this off.
No. I mean, there was the DCU.
No other franchise has managed to pull this off.
Competently.
Other franchises have tried.
Remember the, oh God, I forgot it with Andrew as well, the Dark Monster universe or something.
Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man.
Is that why he's not in the poster?
The Hasbro Cinematic Universe?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Was that actually going to be a thing?
Yes.
Oh my God. There's honestly going to be so many. I mean, I think Nintendo are aiming towards that. I haven't seen the last film that they brought out, but from...
Star Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're definitely aiming towards that now that they know that kind of thing works, so I wouldn't be surprised.
We've actually not spoke about one of the best MCU movies, or non-MCU movies.
Oh no.
And you've just reminded me. Big Hero 6.
Is that Marvel?
It is. It was made by Disney based off of a Marvel comic.
Ah, okay.
This, I guess this kind of fits into the brackets of Men in Black and comics that are vaguely Marvel that aren't actually superheroes. You know what I mean? And a Big Hero 6, phenomenal film. Yeah, I just thought I would quickly name drop that. Men in Black as well, if we're talking about comics, Marvel comics, but again, it's not really a superhero.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't know they were Marvel. Well, learn something new every day in this podcast.
This is when I got this completely wrong. I'm so sure they are.
It's actually DC, thank you very much.
The Watchmen, that was pretty good as well by Marvel.
So was that The Boys.
You know what I like? Spawn.
And Invincible. I was about to say Invisible there.
Big Hero 6 is an American superhero team created by a man of action that first appeared in Marvel Comics September 1998.
Hell yeah. But no, you're completely right though. I feel as if, going back to what I was saying though, I feel as if although they have done such a good job at interconnecting these universes, it is just such a shame that you have to kind of read up on these characters, and although you could probably jump into it and enjoy it for what it is, it's a bit like when Andrew and I were watching that Wonder Man show, which is a fantastic show by the way. It's MCU and everything, but they've got a character called the Mandarin in it. Have you seen Iron Man 3 by chance?
Yeah. Oh yes, I vaguely am aware of the plot of Wonder Man.
Exactly. That was in phase 2,
Yeah.
I want to say, or maybe early phase 3, but it's the fact that I had to explain to my partner when we were watching it, I'm like, okay, this is the Mandarin. He was pretending to be a bad guy.
And also, he was actually a bad guy in the first Iron Man film in phase 1, but then he wasn't, and then he was a bad guy in phase 3.
Yeah. And then he was in phase 4 in Shang-Chi, and you're like, oh god, here we go. But that's the thing though, it's like trying to explain, and fortunately that's the only thing I had to explain, but you're completely right. The fact is that it's very rare nowadays that you can go into an MCU property or just Marvel in general without having to know, everything. Whereas, don't get me wrong, you still had to for Blade 2 or X-Men 2 or, like any of the sequels.
But that's a sequel. You understand the concept.
You at least know that you're going to catch up fast if you don't know it. Whereas, there's just so much homework for the MCU, which, again, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a testament to the work, and it's extra homework for us, to be honest. But what I find quite interesting as well, and sorry, this is the last point, I swear, but what is quite interesting, it's something you brought up there when you were talking about life outside the MCU films, and it's something I never thought of, because when I thought of this episode, I thought, all right, we're going to be talking about Howard the Duck, we're going to be talking about Captain America, etc., etc., and it never really crossed my mind to think of films like Deadpool or the First Class films or any of the Wolverine films, so that's technically the X-Men films, or, any of the Fantastic film, and all of those ones kind of outside, because it's kind of unheard of, isn't it, that you would have a Marvel film that isn't directly tied into the MCU.
Yeah, and even like these X-Men ones, that's them, as we're saying, getting absorbed in now, so it's kind of, it does feel like that's it. And a lot of the ones, we joked about Howard the Duck, but the Spider-Man films are canon to MCU now because of No Way Home.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand if they're canon or not, in terms of like the actual events. You know what I mean? Like the characters are canon, but I don't know if those, you get the point.
Yeah.
The events of those films may or may not have happened in the MCU, because obviously Doc Ock's alive and blah, blah. Yeah, even those films are now getting brought into the MCU, so it feels like we're running out of films that aren't brought under that umbrella. So basically, once the 1990s Captain America turns up, we know.
Do you think they'll do what they did in the Flash film, where it's like the CGI version of them? And like the multiverse bubble looking down.
I'm just thinking it's like Doctor Doom's landing his big spaceship, and then the guy's like, can you pull over for a second? I think I'm going to be sick. Obviously, Doctor Doom, he's a rules-following villain, gets out of the spaceship, Captain America runs back on, sets off, job's good.
End of film.
So
So I was going to finish this episode and ask you, would you like to see a sequel to any of these films, like a Amazing Spider-Man 3 or a Captain America 2 or Howard the Duck 2, But see, with the multiverse theory and everything that's come in, and the fact that Disney are basically absorbing all of these properties, it's kind of a given now, isn't it, that maybe they might make an appearance, or they might point to them and go, oh look, it's that person.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it's so hard, especially with Disney, whatever. For all we know, Alien might end up in the MCU. Maybe they'll do a Predator film stuck in. It's so hard to tell. These franchises are so gigantic, and I know that sounds absurd that these aren't even related, but they'll push the button on these things eventually when they run out of ideas.
Well, I mean, Godzilla's done worse.
Yeah, Godzilla's in the comics. Wait till he turns up in the films.
Can't wait. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, honestly, really good. I'd like Big Hero 6 to get a sequel, because that was like the one that hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's got...
There was a TV show. Yes.
Yeah, Disney did the thing where it was like, there's a low-effort TV show and there's all the shorts that they did with it. But yeah, no, a proper sequel would be great to see. And I mean, as in a proper sequel, not in the way that they treated Megamind over in DreamWorks, which the less said about those sequels, the better. I haven't seen them personally, but from what I saw of them, I'm sad, Martin, I'm not going to lie.
DreamWorks famously terrible at sequels.
Oh, come on. I mean...
It's apart from Puss in Boots' Last Wish.
Shrek 2.
Shrek 2, that's true.
Kung Fu Panda 2. How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Oh, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is pretty good too.
There was a specific era where they were like on their game.
I was going to say, they're good at the second of a franchise, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and then the third is like, yeah.
Anyway, MCU. I think I am all sequeled out. I think Big Hero 6 is probably the only one that I think really does exist on its own that I would like to see sequel. Obviously, I'd like to get the end of Into the Spider-Verse as well, because that ended on a cliffhanger, which is weird. What about yourself? Have you got any?
To be honest, for nostalgia reasons, my heart says, oh, I'd love to see like the Spider-Man 4 or...
I would like to have seen Spider-Man 4 when it was due to come out. Yeah. I don't want to see Tobey Maguire acting now.
No, I feel as if he'd probably be quite angry. But, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you. At the time, it would have been great. I think Andrew Garfield might make a good job of like the Amazing Spider-Man 3, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a rough watch. He was the best part of that film, but everything else, it was a real slog. Do you know what one I really want to see outside of the MCU? I really want to see a Japanese Spider-Man film.
Yes.
I am not even joking. See a dedicated, full-on, even if they have to make it multiverse jargon of, oh, this is universe 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, I don't care. Get him in Leopardon. Get him stomping through New York in this big mech. That would be amazing. That's my dream adaptation, personally. Everything else, I feel as if they've been adapted well enough, because we've got the Punisher TV show, we've got the Daredevil show, we've got the Fantastic Four film, we've got, well, Spider-Man, as we mentioned. We're just, for the most part, everything seems to have had a happy ending. Well, except for Elektra and Blade. But the less said about them, the better. But yeah, I think that for the most part, most of them are in a better place now. And I don't mean that in a morbid way. It's okay, Toby. Think of the spider rabbits. I can't believe that's the second episode in a row I've made a Mice and Men reference. But here we are. But that would genuinely be the one I would be interested in seeing. But again, it's such a cop-out answer to say only time will tell, but only time will tell for these sequels. It'll be interesting to see if Fox, and again, I know they're technically Disney, so maybe they'll just get absorbed, but it'll be interesting to see if they make any more, especially with Morbius, which is really weird, because correct me if I'm wrong, but is there not like an after credit scene where the Vulture is there or something?
I don't know, maybe.
Then you've got the Venom films as well, which, that was a mix. They were a thing. That's all I'll say. They were a thing. And again, they're trying to absorb them into the MCU. So basically, what I'm trying to summarise is Disney is Venom and is absorbing everything right now. I mean, it's got its tendrils and everything. So we'll see if Elektra gets her sequel. We'll see.
She was in the Daredevil show, was she not?
Oh, I actually don't know. I genuinely haven't seen the Daredevil show. I've heard great things about it though, but I haven't seen it.
So she did get the sequel after all.
I mean, technically, her and Blade were in the Deadpool and Wolverine film, which was quite funny. But again, multiverse theory and all of that, cameo, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. But on that very optimistic note, Martin, thank you so much for, going down memory lane with me and, discussing life outside of the MCU.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm going to go watch Captain America 1990.
Be careful, Mr. President.
Could you pull over the podcast? Sorry, I think I'm going to be sick.
Oh, I wish I'd ended the episode like that. Or put that in the skit. Do you mind if we stop the film? I think I'm going to be sick. Just put Howard the Duck on. But yeah, before we wrap up, where can the amazing Pandalorians at home find your content?
You can find me across Instagram and TikTok at Martin McAllister. Any of those platforms. I've also got some new stuff in the works, cooking up, so keep an eye out. My content will be more than just wrestling, but for now, it's mainly wrestling and a little bit of Dungeons & Dragons stuff. Watch this space.
And if you want to check out more episodes from ourselves, as well as more episodes about Marvel Month, and you can check us out at our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. I also want to thank our amazing Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Ghostie, and Cryptic 1991. Thank you so much for supporting the show. But if you would like early access to episodes, exclusive content, as well as Martin and I's full reenactment of 1990s Captain America.
Line by line.
Yeah, trust me, we had to steal a lot of cars for the part. And of course, you can check us out at our Patreon page, patreon.com/Chatsunami. This podcast is, of course, a proud member of the Podpack Collective. For more information, check us out at our Twitter/X page at Podpack Collect. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, oh my god, is that the portal out of here?
I've finally done it. All the bad energy, the mojo, the Jamojo, I've done it. Oh, can you hold the portal aside? I think I'm going to be sick.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Martin, it's closing. Martin!